Hi, my name is Hannah Miller. I am the field director for the Media and Democracy Coalition, which is based out of Philadelphia and Washington, D.C. I have come here with Ben Lennet from the New America Foundation to San Antonio, Texas, as part of a large project to get grassroots input on what the future of the internet should look like and how to expand access to everyone who is not currently a part of the internet economy and have access to all of those resources. We are here in San Antonio. We're going to have a panel discussion, or have a sort of an open discussion on how media could better serve all communities within San Antonio, not just those who have a lot of money. And we are hoping you can be a part of that process too. We're on the web at www.media-democracy.net. The outcome of all of these meetings will be condensed into a policy paper and presented to the Obama administration within the first 100 days of his taking the oath of office. Thanks so much for joining.
Hi, my name's Benjamin Lennet, and I work for the New America Foundation Wireless Future Program, which is focused on broadband issues related to access, improving internet freedom, and also promoting community access to the airwaves and individual access, citizen access to the airwaves. And I'm here in San Antonio as part of the Media Democracy Coalition's Broadband White Paper, which is soliciting community input into what kind of issues and policies we should focus on in DC. And it was I think a very interesting discussion, and certainly a lot of the issues in terms of community self-reliance and NGOs and actually building our own networks, I think, are very important aspects of a internet policy, and in terms of actually getting access out to those people without it, and also improving digital literacy. And I'm very optimistic about the future. I think we have a good ideas going forward, and I think we can get broadband access out to those who need it, and ensure that the internet sort of maintains itself as a sort of a great communications media for all sorts of communities and issues and content and so forth.
All right. So now I want to talk about the digital divide, which is probably one of the biggest problems. We have as a country, I think. I know we're all wired. So we all know, we all have the internet, and we all have access to it, and so, or at least probably most of us do, and that's, but it's sometimes people forget that there are millions and millions and millions of people who do not have the internet at home, and if so, only have DSL, or only have dial-up. A third of the population has nothing, a third of the population has dial-up internet access, dial-up, and then 1 in 5 households have never used email accounts. As you can see, you're 6 times as likely to have broadband at home if your income is over 100K than if you're not. And also, I also want to point out, like you said before, actually, it is a very much of a rural problem. It costs, because the companies choose not to build out the network to rural locations. You're much more likely to have it if you're in suburban or urban areas. So, because we've treated in our law and our policy the internet as a luxury item as opposed to something that's a utility that we all need to use, then it's like it's become like a luxury item, and therefore the folks who are left out and who don't have access at home to broadband are the groups that don't have access to many other things in our society: women, African Americans, the disabled, Latinos, elderly, and rural populations. The elderly, especially.
So, for instance, one of those things, like in the film they were talking about, the BitTorrent thing. So companies will complain that, well, people share movies or music illegally using BitTorrent, but BitTorrent can be used for any file, so it can also be used for legitimate purposes. As a filmmaker, I mean, I've used it just to be able, or a program similar than that, just to transfer large files. Because, for instance, if you have a 10 gigabyte file, you can't put that on, you send it or something to give to somebody. It's best anyway to send it directly from one computer to another. But it's the kind of thing that an internet service provider is likely to pick up and say, oh, well, you must be sharing, whatever, the Dark Knight or something, and cut that kind of thing off, even though it could potentially be a legitimate thing. So they like to do things like, for instance, when they were doing the thing about the cell phone, A text message is a teeny tiny bit of information, and you pay maybe 50 cents for a text message. Where a voice call is much more information, and you know, you might pay just a tiny fraction of that 50 cents, you know, for a voice call. So they want to do things like say, you know, if you want to be able to upload large amounts of information, we're going to either not allow that, or we're going to charge prohibitively for that. So that limits the kinds of things that you could do, like for instance, broadcast a radio station from your house. Well, maybe it's just cost prohibitive to do that, or broadcast, you know, video live from your house. So they might say, no, you can't do that. And so then it becomes only the people who can afford that kind of thing, you know, can do it.
Who here uses Spectrum? Does anyone here use Spectrum? I use Spectrum. You all use Spectrum. Spectrum, Spectrum is everywhere. Spectrum is basically the public airwaves, including, you know, basically that are managed by the government right now. They're used for broadcasting, for radio, for remote controls to run your TV. All sorts of devices operate on the spectrum. Right now, as many of you know already, it is somewhat inefficiently managed by the government, and there are ways to improve the way we work with it so that it can make it much more powerful, and many more of our voices could actually be a part of, could actually get out there.